Alright guys, welcome to the Tuesday Directions video. Back to some notes today. We looked at the Aztecs, we looked at the Incas, we looked at the Maya yesterday. Today we're going to kind of continue on with our notes series here. So yeah, we'll just begin now. So last time we talked, we were doing Columbian Exchange before we were talking about the different South American groups. So we'll kind of continue on with that. Alright. So again, the administration of Spanish New World. We're going to kind of skip over that for the most part. What we're going to talk about is the class system. So obviously the class system is going to be based on the higher up you are, the more closely linked to Spain you are. So the first group here, these would be people that were born in Spain but now live in the New World. Okay, the Peninsulars. Below them, the Criollos. The Criollos will be people who are 100% Spanish, but they were born in the New World. So that because you weren't born in Spain, you get knocked down to level 2. The level 3 people are the mixes. So you have the mestizos. These are like people who are like half Spanish, half Native American, and the mulattoes would be half Spanish, half slave. And then on the bottom, it's just the straight up Native Americans, and then the black slaves would be on the bottom. So if you want to jot this down, especially the ones from here, the Criollos, Mestizos, Peninsulars, stuff that we don't see with any other group. So jot that down. I'll put some questions on there. Treasures for the Americas, as you can see, I want to make this a little bigger. All right, so as you can see, the value of gold and silver from Spanish America definitely hits its peak. But once it's all there, you know, it's not like a renewable resource. Once you kind of get it all, that's kind of what's left. So you can see they have some massive peaks here when we're talking about almost hitting about 35 million pesos of gold. Pretty impressive. But then it's a sharp decline because Spain is on, they got it all basically. All right, so gold and silver returns. So they found 16,000 tons of silver. Or 32 million pounds of silver, 339,000 pounds of gold taken from the Americas between the year 1500 and 1650. So that's a really large amount of money, and obviously that's going to influence your economy and what people are going to be spending and what they're spending their money on. So we'll kind of look at that a little bit later. But the age of exploration definitely continued on. Outside of Spain, outside of Portugal, there's a whole bunch of different groups. One of the main important people is a guy named Ferdinand Magellan. He's the first person to circumnavigate the world. So he actually is going to go around the world. He ends up kind of getting sick / dying kind of on the way, but they still count it because his ship and his vessel made it all the way across. He kind of got hung up in India there for a little bit. Other countries in the New World, you know, we know the Dutch, we know the English, we have the French and the Portugal and the Portuguese. These ones we're more familiar with because this has the more link with American history. For example, like the Netherlands or the New Netherlands, they settle in New York City. They just call it New Amsterdam, settled in 1624. And even the official flag of the city of New York has the Dutch colors of, you know, blue and orange. So that's something interesting, and even their New York Steel has a Dutch man on it. So they still have a lot of ties. Fort Orange would be kind of where they started, kind of their first trading post, located on the Hudson River. Again, trading post serves as a central location for small farms. But the Dutch in general are just here to trade. They're not really like colonial conquest, trying to hold the land to colonize it. They're holding the land as like a business, and they want to make sure that that's their area where they do business, and they can make a lot of money doing that. So in order to successfully maintain holdings, it was necessary to make treaties with the Iroquois and the British. So the Dutch actually do a really good job of creating good alliances with the Native American groups, unlike the British. And the French also do a good job of creating alliances. The British, they're just the worst at it. Conflict with the British and the natives weakened the Dutch position. Both were viewed as a hindrance to Dutch expansion. Internal weakness within the Dutch. Basically, there's a bunch of examples or reasons why the Dutch are here for a short time, not a long time. They eventually get kicked out during the Second Anglo-Dutch War of 1664, if you want to write this down. This is the war that if you want to jot this stuff down, this is the war that kicks out the Dutch. Basically, after this war, the Dutch no longer are a superpower of the day. They were a great economic power up to this point because of their shipping. They would be like, you know how you pay like shipping rates when you order something off the internet. The Dutch were the shippers. They would ship everything from across Europe, to India, the Triangle trade, slaves. They dealt with it all. All right. Again, masters of the carrying trade, lowest shipping rates in Europe, not much inflation. The Great Dutch Land Reclamation Project was accelerated during this time, and again, they're just universal traders. So the Dutch, big time traders, and it's called the carrying trade. So they're the ones you're going to talk about with the shipment. The English, we can kind of know the deal. I'm not going to talk about. We know the whole story on the English, right? We did the 13 colonies ever since we were kids. So I'm going to kind of skip over the English. We know they're big players in this, and we know what they're doing, and we know very precisely what goes wrong. The revolution. So the French. Unlike the English, who wanted to control or conquer the natives, the French worked with natives and traded for what they wanted. Remember the voyageurs? So the French were less of a threat to Native Americans compared to the British, because the British wanted to colonize the land, stay there, farm there, live there. The French did not want that. They just wanted the furs. So they are like a traveling circus going through the wilderness, getting their hands as much furs as they possibly can. And the Native Americans recognize this, and so they're more willing to help the French, knowing that the French plan on not staying, unlike the British, who plan on staying and settling more west and grabbing more land for themselves. So, as such, not many French colonized the area. However, through trade, they claim much of North America, and their number one trade is fur, the beaver fur. All right, so you guys got an idea here. We kind of know. So the 13 colonies here on the East Coast, and then you have French influence all the way here in blue. And again, it's a larger landmass up into Canada, because a lot of times they're moving. They're a traveling band. Next up, we have Portugal. We know that Portugal claims Brazil. In Brazil, they still speak Portuguese, so that influence is still there, big time. And with new colonies comes new colonial rivalries. This is what we see lead to a lot of big wars in history, a lot of colonization. We saw it prior to World War I. We see it here during this time. So a lot of things happening. Impact of European expansion. Native populace ravaged by disease. An influx of gold, and especially silver, into Europe created an inflationary economic climate. Basically, they brought too much gold and silver back, and it threw their economy in limbo. If you have too much of something, it becomes less valuable. And if money becomes less valuable, sorry, there's something going on in the hallway. If something becomes less valuable, the prices go up. Okay, so we start to get an inflation. New products introduced across the continents via the Columbian Exchange and the Triangle Trade. You guys jotted that down. But a big thing is it deepened colonial rivalries. It really made Europe really start not liking each other again. By 1588, Spain looks like the country to beat in the world. But all of that is about to change. And we'll wait for tomorrow's notes to answer that question. So that's the notes for today, guys. I know we're going fast, but I only have a 15-minute deal on my free software here. So we're definitely time constrained. Again, you guys have the power to pause, rewind, pause and write down the notes. So good luck for you people at home. No assignment today. Just taking some notes. So all right, have a good one, and I'll talk to you guys later. Make sure you get some missing work done. Last day to do things is May 7th.